Tonight, we're going to learn about high blood pressure, and each Sunday night at 8 o'clock Eastern, 6 Central, we're going to take some time to answer some of your questions. We took questions from the group, from the Facebook group, and we're just going to dive deep into them. If you do have questions, we can answer them if you post them into the group where this is being live streamed from the high blood pressure Facebook group. So let me introduce my buddy over here. This is Dr. Christina Miller, who is double board certified in emergency and integrative medicine. And you can connect with her and do virtual consultations in telemedicine. She's certified in 23 different states, and you can find her at www.plantbasedtelehealth.com. I am Jean Schumacher. I'm co-founder of the Pregnancy Advantage, and you can find lots of resources for living plant-based at my website, simplyplantbased.net. And you can learn more about me and my programs there, as well as the pregnancyadvantage.net. So good evening, Dr. Miller. How are you tonight?
Great, thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's always fun connecting with you. We always dive deep into the questions and get into it, and I'm excited. So the first two questions that we're going to be asking or talking about tonight have to do with systolic and diastolic. This is when you're measuring your high blood pressure. Okay, you have this cuff that goes onto your arm. And so there's two numbers that you get. The first one is called systolic, and the second one is diastolic. So first, Dr. Miller, can you tell us what is systolic and diastolic? What do they mean before we jump into our questions? Because we need to have some understanding of what these words mean.
Yep, that's a great question. So systole, first of all, is the contraction of the heart. You know, it contracts and it relaxes. It contracts and it relaxes. And so when it's actually contracting, that stage is called systole. And then when it relaxes, it's called diastole. And so the blood pressures go along with that. So when it contracts and the blood goes out the aorta and through all the arteries of the body, that's called systolic blood pressure. So that's the top number when it contracts and it goes out. And then when the heart relaxes and it's in diastole, that's called the diastolic blood pressure. So that is when everything is relaxing. Blood is draining back into the heart at that point, and the heart is filling. So diastole is really important because that's when the heart fills. And so and the difference between the two is called the pulse pressure. So we measure pulse pressures too, and we look at it. And certain conditions, like when a patient is septic, let's say in the emergency room, and they have a really bad infection, and this infection has taken over their body, and it's called sepsis, and it's very life-threatening. It's a very scary situation. At that time, the lower blood pressure, the diastole, relaxes, and someone has a very low diastolic blood pressure compared to a high blood pressure. And we look at that and we notice this huge pulse pressure, and that's not a good thing. So we look at that as well. So we look at the systolic blood pressure, the upper one, the diastolic blood pressure, the lower blood pressure, and the difference between the two, the pulse pressure.
Okay. Well, that's good that we know what the difference is now between those two. So it's really important when we're measuring these things to keep track of this. You should be keeping track of your blood pressure and measuring it. And I think part of that too is dependent upon you. If you're somebody who's going to stress out, if you're seeing these numbers, maybe this is not a good thing. What are your thoughts on how often we should measure this, Doc?
You're exactly right, Jean, and I agree with you. So it is good to keep an eye on it. You should have an idea what it is, like morning, afternoon, evening, in case it's getting out of control at a certain time of day. Some people, like if people have sleep apnea, they may wake up with a high blood pressure. Most people, the blood pressure goes up during the day. You eat a little bit of salt, you get stressed out, so your blood pressure raises during the day. But it tells us a little bit what time it's up, even if it's up at night. So it's interesting to know that. So it's ideal do we need to check it every day, every moment? No, I don't think we need to fixate on it. I think that can lead to severe anxiety. And some people are going to find they get really anxious with it. So then I don't recommend checking it every day. Maybe, at least once, twice, 3 times a week, just to kind of get an idea, different time, make sure it's within range, it's not in a dangerous spot, kind of have an idea of it, but don't check it every day. And know that whatever the number is, it tells you information and you can address it, right? We can get some medications on board. We can do some stress management right away. We can we can change our diet. So we can, we can do things. And if we see it going up, instead of freaking ourselves out over it, we start the deep breathing, the relaxation, the whatever we need to do. If we need to call our doctors and go up on medications, like if it's severe, we need to go to the ER, like whatever we do. So instead of thinking it as fearful, think of it as information that gives us the next step. And so hopefully that will help some people.
Right. Absolutely. Because you need to control this. Most people, and I'm abnormal. I know, I've been told that. So, I actually get blood pressure headaches. So most people don't. They call it the silent killer because you don't know when your blood pressure is really, really high. You don't feel it within your body. And so, it is important that you get this information and measure your blood pressure, and they certainly have them at like Rite Aid, CVS, their basic box pharmacies. You can get, a pretty good, decent blood pressure cuff that measures it per se. So, okay, somebody posted in the group, they said, how do you lower the systolic number, which is the top number? Today, my blood pressure was 173 over 82. Pulse was 80. And yesterday it was 159 over 88. So she didn't say anything. She said something about a diet, but also taking meds. I'm feeling tired at the back of my shoulder. So what do you got there, Doc?
Well, first of all, this is not medical advice. So I am not telling you medically what to do. I'm just in general giving information on someone with a high blood pressure. So if the systolic blood pressure is high, first of all, both numbers seem like they're high there. If it was 159 over 88, that's both blood pressure, both readings being high. True, the second day it was in the 170s over 82. So that is more the systolic. But there's several reasons for it. So, if we're doctors that go to the root cause, then we have to understand what is the root cause of this. And so one is age. As people age, and that's because arteries stiffen, and that's from a lot from diet and lifestyle. A little smidgen of it is genetic. So if arteries are stiffening, that's going to cause the systolic blood pressure, the first blood pressure number, to go up. Let's see, if there's a hyperactive thyroid, so if someone has thyroid disease that is not being controlled, overactive thyroid, that can cause it to go up. Obesity can cause it to go up. Eating salt can cause it to go up. Stress causes everything with blood pressure. Just remember that. And we don't talk about it. Like, I just named that as the fifth thing. I probably should have named it as the first or second thing. Like, it really affects your blood pressure reading. So that can affect it. Someone with chronic kidney disease can have a high elevated first blood pressure reading, systolic number. So I don't know anything about you, but so start thinking of what could be your root cause of it. Eating high salt, though, that's huge, right? Eating animal products, that raises blood pressure. So if you eat more dark leafy green vegetables and more vegetables and whole grains and, plant type foods, that does lower blood pressure significantly. Jean, you can attest to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So changing your diet, if that's consistent, right. Getting exercise. Are you drinking alcohol? That can raise it. What stress?
But is it just, like the first number was, 173 over 82. So what is specifically going to raise that the systolic and not the diastolic?
So that's called isolated systolic blood pressure. And those two are linked to stiff arteries and hyperactive thyroid. Those are the two most common of isolated. Obesity can cause isolated. I looked this up too to answer this question. Heart valve problems can cause it. Salt and stress. So those can all cause isolated.
Okay.
They can also cause, if you look up causes of high diastolic, high salt diet is the first thing, obesity. So they're similar, right? So your body's going to respond the way your body responds. Lack of physical exercise, excess alcohol, medications like steroids, amphetamines, caffeine, and of course, stress. So you'll see there's a link between the two. Some people get both going up, and I would argue both of yours are elevated. When you had 159 over 88, both of those seem elevated to me. So that could be any of these causes: high salt diet, stress, lack of physical activity, alcohol, things like that. So it's hard to know which one it is. So now this is up to you to start journaling, start looking at what types of things, what time of day did it elevate? What happened that day? How much sleep did you get? Exercise? What's the stress? What did you eat? Did you eat a high salt meal? Did you not get your vegetables in and your whole grain fiber in you that day? And try to take a look at it. Those would be my recommendations, as well as what medications are you taking and what's helping you control it.
Salt's a big one. Salt is a huge one. And it is for me. I know it's without question salt can be just a huge issue. And anytime you're going to be going out to a restaurant, okay, just know that you're going to be getting high salt foods. That, and if you're eating processed foods, like, going into the interior aisles of the grocery store, you should be primarily getting most of your foods from the outer perimeter, where the fruits and vegetables are. So that's where a majority of your food should be coming. And there's a few processed things that will help you to transition to this diet. But for the most part, when you start to look at, like, for example, tomato sauce, any tomato sauce, right, is going to have a phenomenal amount of salt. I mean, like 20-30% salt for that. Not only that, but they're going to usually have oil. So those two things right there, the oil makes your red blood cells become so sticky. You know how, do you ever like see like when we used to use oil, like the olive oil, it would drip down on the sides and it becomes so sticky. Did you ever see that or have that on yours when you had used olive oil at one point?
I know it drips down. I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, it becomes so sticky and it's hard to clean. Okay, if it's hard to clean on the outside of a bottle, think what it's doing on the inside of your arteries if it's hard to clean on the outside of a bottle. So it makes your red blood cells become really, really sticky, and it's hard for your blood then to flow. It becomes sticky and sludge. Your blood becomes sludge. And it takes about 10 to 12 hours for you to process that oil. So, and that's going to make your blood pressure go up. So, eating out is going to cause issues for sure, between the salt and the oil, because it's virtually difficult to find a restaurant that will cook without salt and oil. So,
and what have you noticed if you were to eat out, let's say a plant-based meal, but it had a little more salt than you eat at home and your blood pressure goes up? How long do you think it is before it goes back down if you're eating clean again the second you get home?
And that's a fabulous question, because it will have an impact, and it will take a couple days for my blood pressure to stabilize back. So, and I know because I just did this. There was a new restaurant that opened up on Cape Cod. And so I went to go support it because it's plant-based, but there were some things in there that were, they used oil and they used salt. So I'm going to be working with the owner who just started this place. I'm so excited, but we're going to be working together to help, offer things that are whole food, plant-based, salt, oil, sugar-free. Perhaps maybe not 100% sugar-free, but using other things like dates or, just things to sweeten it, but to make it whole food, plant-based. So, I'm going to be working with him, but I went to go eat there, and my blood pressure went up, and it's going to take a couple of days to bring it back down, without question, because my body holds on to this liquid, and it takes a day or two for my body to process the liquid to, because that puts pressure on me. So, all right. Well, thank you, Doc, for, helping us to understand what systolic and diastolic are. So that's great. This person asked about, let's see, who here is on regular losartan 100 milligrams? I have a love-hate relationship with that medication. I know I need to take it to control my blood pressure, but the side effects, I feel tired and out of it when I take it. It goes away after a couple of hours, but still. So I think they wanted to talk about, side effects, Doc. What are your thoughts on this medication?
So losartan is one of the medications that helps block the receptor, and that causes the kidneys to constrict down. So it helps open blood flow to the kidney. And it's very beneficial to protect the kidneys when you have high blood pressure. It's a very good medication in general. That's why doctors like to use it. It has less side effects than an ACE inhibitor, which can cause severe coughing, and people tend to have more of it's not an allergic reaction, but a reaction to it and don't do as well. So then doctors switch them over to losartan. So in general, it has good effects on people and good outcomes. And that's why doctors like to use it. Every medication has a side effect though, right? It doesn't only do the good things, so it always causes side effects. So being fatigued is so common with medications. And I would say a couple things. One is when you start a new medication, sometimes it takes a little time for it to settle in, and then you get used to it, or your body adapts to it, I should say. And then you don't feel as much sluggishness. Taking it at different times of the day. So maybe taking it in the evening instead of the morning, or the morning instead of the evening, switching that up, breaking it in half, doing half and half. maybe it's too high of a dose for you. So there's several things you can look into if you're not tolerating it well, I would say.
Yeah.
And then you can talk to your doctor about switching it. There's so many different medications, and sometimes it's just the brand. Even different brands will have different reactions. Then they're not all the same just because they're the same type. They have the same effect, but they can have different side effects, if that makes sense. And so switching the brand or switching it. So from a losartan to something like an ACE inhibitor, like a lisinopril, if you're not tolerating it, or to something else. So working with your doctor on that, or work on your diet and your lifestyle, and maybe over time your blood pressure will get lower and lower and your doctor will want to reduce it, and then you won't need so much and you won't have so much side effects. I think Jean likes that option. Hard to tell, it's hard to read her, but I think she likes that option. So that would be my thought for that.
No, and it's true, because all medications your body has to deal with anything that you're putting on your body or in your body has to deal with. You have to. That's plain and simple. And so these medications, your body has to deal with. And sometimes your body might not react positively to that medication. So it's a good idea to keep a journal, keep a track of, and keep notations of this. Did it help you? Are you having reactions? And then discuss that with your doctor, because the medicine itself is not going to heal you. It's going to help you to deal with your high blood pressure in that moment in time, but we have to get to the root cause. And we've talked about this a lot. We do have one question, Dr. Miller, that just posted in from Haley. So thank you, Haley, for joining us tonight. So her question is, why does my blood pressure raise when I'm up and walking around, but as soon as I sit down for 10 or 15 minutes, it lowers to normal? Is this normal? And when I'm up and walking around, it raises to about 137/97. When I sit down, it goes down to 107/72. Talk to us about this.
It is normal that it does raise when you stand up and move around. So for sure it does. If you take it when you're exercising, it can be like 140/90 in a healthy person. So it definitely raises when you're up and about. And it's supposed to come down when you sit and relax, add those deep breaths in. It's supposed to come down. So that is an appropriate response. It might be a little bit high. The 137/97 seems a little bit high, especially that diastolic number to me. So I don't know if you have stiffer artery walls, or if you had some salt, or if you're even being dehydrated. If you didn't drink enough, that can raise the blood pressure when you're up and about and walking. So I don't know what else is going on with you, but that would be my thought, that there's something causing it to go up a little bit higher, but it is normal that it's going to go higher. So that's why we always check blood pressures when we're sitting, and because we know it's going to come down when we're sitting, and that's what we want. So that's a beautiful blood pressure when you're sitting. So that reassures me and makes me feel good about it. So the other thing is, if you've been up and about for a while, you're not stressed, but you're just moving. Did you just stand up, or you've been walking for a while? So that makes a difference a little bit too. After you've been standing for a little bit, it might come down just a little bit. So, and you can recheck that a couple times, make sure that really is 137/97. So those would be my thoughts.
High blood pressure is not something that just stays there. It's going to fluctuate. It's going to change. And it's in response to what you're doing. And that just makes perfect sense. But you want to also make sure that you're doing things to help your body, to help your bloodstream, to be able to counteract that. So that, to me, just makes so much sense. That it's going to change, it's going to happen. Your blood pressure has to go up, because when you start to exercise, things like that, because your body's responding to it. So as soon as you stop and chill out, then it should come back down. In theory, unless you're doing things like we talked about, stress and, food per se it's going to have a huge impact. Huge. And then obesity, without questions. So these are the things you want to start to work on right away, because they go hand in hand with high blood pressure. High blood pressure is a symptom of your body being sick. It just is. And so you need to get to the root cause and find out. So, if you need and want to find a doctor who's going to work with you to help you get to the root cause, Dr. Miller is amazing. She can help guide you throughout all of this. So, and there was just one more question that popped in, and I got to just say something really quick about this one. And let me just pop it into the chat for you, Dr. Miller, just so that we can be on the same page. Shirley says, did losing weight help with blood pressure? I've been doing keto and I lost 50 pounds, went to the doctors. My blood pressure went really high. So now I'm blood pressure medication. what could have caused this, and what do I do to get off this medication? First of all, keto. Oh, doc, talk to me about keto.
Yeah, so keto is going to be a high fat diet in general, and some animal products, both of those can cause high blood pressure, and that's what's happening to you. The animal products and the high fat are extremely hard on the kidneys. They cause a lot of oxidative stress, and they're known to be dangerous to the kidneys, where some people start to go into chronic kidney disease from eating this diet. And so blood pressure is a sign, an early sign. So it's your body's not liking this diet. We don't like the diet either, because we've seen so many people have problems with it. And this is one of them. So you lost weight and your blood pressure went up. That's a very telling sign that this diet is not working for you. So you can lose weight on a plant-based diet and lower your blood pressure. And so I would recommend switching off, dropping that high-fat diet and dropping all the animal products, and instead eating plants. So eating vegetables and fresh fruit and legumes and whole grains, and not a lot of fat. And when you eat this way, you'll also lose weight. I know that sounds surprising because there's a lot of carbs there, but you will lose weight when you're not eating all that fat. And if you do it in the right proportions, and Jean is a pro at helping you, and I can also help you get the right plate to look so that you do lose weight. And then you should be able to lower your blood pressure. And hopefully, since you just went on it and it just went up, that you should be able to get off it soon too.
Right. No, for sure. And I can't say enough about a plant-based diet. And I know you, oh my God, you've reversed. And for those people who don't know about your past, you have reversed lupus. Okay. It's an autoimmune disease, which is horrendous. And so you've done that. I have lost over 100 pounds, healed my thyroid. My husband's reversed multiple sclerosis. I mean, it's incredible when you start to put the right fuel into the body, how the body responds. And it is phenomenal. And weight loss is just, I would say, a side effect, a good one. Okay. It's a great side effect, and it's not going to have any impact. But when you stress your body out, either through keto or paleo, I can't say enough how I've seen people get sick and chronically ill. And you need to understand that this is not going to be long. First of all, you can't sustain it long term. You cannot. Okay. So you need to find something that you can sustain, and whole food plant-based, in my opinion, because I've been on every diet known to mankind. I've yo-yoed my entire life. And so at this point, I've lost over 100 pounds and sustained it. I don't count calories. I don't count points. I don't count. I eat. Okay. I have the freedom to eat. And boy, honey, let me tell you, I eat. And if you go on to I have a Facebook group called Plant-Based Cape Cod or Plant-Based Westchester, either one of those groups. I batch cook on the weekends. My husband and I are in the kitchen for several hours. We cook once and we eat many times, because you have to take control of your food. You have to take control of what's at the end of your fork. So that's a low-hanging fruit, right? In terms of dealing with high blood pressure, low-hanging fruit. Okay. It's an easy change to make, but there is a lot to learn. And you need to start with blood work and have somebody monitor your medications. That's where Dr. Miller comes in, and she can help you to do that. She's certified in 23 states, and she can help you get to the root cause of this holistically, and hopefully the goal is to get you off these meds. So that's one point, but you're going to need help. Okay. And I kind of think of and compare myself to when Dorothy landed in the Wizard of Oz in Munchkin land, and she's like, I just want to go home. You just landed all of a sudden, the life of color, the Wicked Witch, you just killed her. You got these ruby slippers on your feet, and you just want to go home. And they're like, yeah, go see Oz. We got nothing for you. We have no GPS coordinates to get you home. Sorry. And so you start on this trail, and all of a sudden there's going to be a witch throwing fire bombs at you. There's going to be winged monkeys that are going to pick you up and take you in the other direction. I kind of compare that to the paleo and keto diet, because they're taking you in the wrong direction. I hate to break the news to you guys, but it's taking you in the wrong direction. You may have some short-term results. You may have weight loss. It may help your high blood pressure. I noticed Haley mentioned that she went keto and lost 60 pounds and her blood pressure was low. Again, every body is going to react differently, okay, to the things. You have to figure out what's going to work best for you. But the keto is not sustainable. It's just not, okay? So anyway, Dr. Miller, always pleasure connecting with you. And we're going to take some more questions, next week. And, if you have questions, join us. If you have questions that you want us to answer throughout the week, just tag either Dr. Miller or myself, and we'll add it to the show. So hopefully, join us on Sunday nights. I also post these videos on my YouTube channel, so you can go back and see other episodes, because we talk about a lot of things. Every week is something different. So,
and we were going to talk one week about how to stay healthy for the holidays. So we have some tips that we wanted to share, because the holidays, with all the food and the celebration, can be a time that and the stress, right? And the change of lifestyle, maybe not sleeping as much or exercising as much, blood pressure can go up. And so we want to give some tips to prevent that from happening, to help you guys out.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that on the next show. Some tips, and that's going to take up the whole show, because we could talk about that forever.
We like to talk about that. That's true.
We do. And, it's helping you to navigate it successfully, and I'll leave you with this quote. Okay. Failure to plan is a plan for failure. If you don't plan out your food, okay, you're going to fail. You're setting yourself up for failure. It's as simple as that. Because when you're hungry, you're going to go right through the local drive-through of whatever it is, and you can, and that's just hurting your body even more. So we're going to talk about some tips and tricks and strategies next week. So join us next Sunday, and then always tag us with your questions. So Dr. Miller, thank you so much. As always, you are amazing. So I always am grateful to spend time listening to you, because you're incredible. So.
Thank you, Jean, and I'm happy to be here. And thank you guys for your questions. It's great to have you, and let us know. We're here to help. So if you have more questions, keep bringing them to us. So thank you.
All right.